3 words, just 3 words that Jesus whispered before he died, made a Roman soldier fall to his knees and declare, "Truly, this was the Son of God." But what you don't know is that these same 3 words are connected to 5 warnings Jesus left. Warnings so disturbing that many pastors avoid preaching them. Warnings so intense that once you truly understand their meaning, your Christian life will never be the same. Look, I need to be straight with you. There's a huge difference between knowing Jesus and actually knowing what he said. And today you're going to discover words of warning. He spoke specifically to believers like us, living in the last days. These aren't pretty teachings to post on Instagram. They're hidden revelations that will shake everything you believe about faith, salvation, and spiritual preparation. Do you know which warning haunts me the most? The 5th. When Jesus reveals something about his return that will make you rethink every prayer, every decision, every moment you think lies ahead. Because here's the cold, hard truth. These 5 warnings from Jesus aren't theory. They're reality happening right now, right in front of you. And if you don't take them seriously, well, he himself explained what happens. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could be the difference between being prepared and finding out too late that you weren't. But before I reveal these warnings, I need to tell you something that will change your perspective on who Jesus really was. Most people know Jesus as the gentle man who blessed children and multiplied loaves of bread. But there is another side of Christ that is rarely mentioned, the prophet who revealed truth so intense that even his own disciples were disturbed. When Jesus spoke about the future, his voice changed. The Gospels record that he sighed deeply before some revelations. Why? Because he saw what was coming. He saw every believer who would be lost for not taking his words of warning seriously. These weren't sermons to crowds. They were intimate spiritual warnings, whispered to those who dared to listen. Jesus knew these messages would be forgotten, ignored, or worse, distorted to sound more palatable. But today, in this moment, you will hear these warnings exactly as he said them, unfiltered. No smooth interpretations. The first warning goes straight to the heart of your faith, and you may discover something about yourself that you never imagined. If Jesus were to show up at your church today, how many people would he actually recognize as his? This is not my question. It is exactly what Jesus meant when he revealed his first devastating warning. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father. Let me tell you a story that happened to me a few years ago. I met a man named Roberto, a worship leader known throughout the community, always with a smile and a word of faith. For 15 years, he sang about Jesus, preached about Jesus, and even cried during services. One day, his wife discovered that he had been having 2 extramarital affairs for years. When confronted by church leaders, Roberto said something that has stayed with me forever. "But I really love Jesus. I feel his presence when I sing. Doesn't that count?" The answer is no, it doesn't count. Jesus wasn't talking about evil people pretending to be good. He was talking about people who truly believe they follow him, but live in a spiritual illusion. People who confuse religious emotion with obedience, who have traded the cross for convenience. The most frightening thing about this first warning, Jesus says these people will argue with him. Did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons? Did we not perform many miracles? And he will answer, I never knew you. Depart from me. I never knew them. I didn't stop knowing them. I never knew them. This means that even though I thought they had a relationship with Christ, they never really did. What if you discovered that everything you consider Christian life is just a religious performance that deceives even yourself? By their fruits you will know them, a phrase Jesus repeated many times, but which few truly understand. Jesus wasn't giving a spiritual gardening tip. He was revealing a secret about discernment that can save your soul, how to spot false prophets who even they believe are true. The second element of this first warning is even more disturbing. Jesus warned that in the last days many would appear who would perform signs and wonders, but would not be truly connected to God. The question he asked echoes to this day. When the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on earth? Think about it for a moment. Jesus didn't ask if he would find religions, churches, miracles, or crowds singing hymns. He asked if he would find faith, true faith, the faith that transforms character, that produces obedience even when no one is looking. Here's a biblical secret few realize. Jesus taught that it's possible to operate in the supernatural and still be lost. It's possible to prophesy and not know him. It's possible to cast out demons and be rejected by him. Why? Because miracles don't prove holiness. Spiritual gifts don't guarantee salvation. What matters is whether you truly know Jesus and whether he knows you. But how do you know if you really know him? The answer lies in the second warning, and it may be more uncomfortable than you think. If the first warning shakes your Christian identity, the second will shake your sense of spiritual security. Before we continue, if this message touches your heart, please leave a like to let me know you're with me on this journey, and subscribe to the channel because what follows may be exactly what your soul needed to hear today. It's just a quick break, but we'll be back with a revelation that could change everything. Jesus told a parable that should keep every believer awake at night, the story of the 10 virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. All were virgins. All were waiting for the bridegroom. All had lamps. But when the bridegroom arrived, half were left outside. The most terrifying detail: the foolish virgins weren't bad people. They simply didn't prepare properly. By the time they realized the oil was running out, it was too late. This second warning from Jesus is a warning about spiritual preparation. It's not enough to have a semblance of faith. It's not enough to frequent the right places, know the right people, speak the right language. You need to have the oil, a spiritual reserve that only comes through real intimacy with God. The burning question: what's the difference between the wise and foolish virgins? They all did the same things outwardly. The difference lay in the preparation that no one saw. Jesus was warning that many sincere believers will be caught off guard, not because they are false, but because they are unprepared, because they have a faith that functions on the surface but lacks deep roots. And it was precisely on these roots that Jesus made his most astonishingly specific revelation. Lord, Lord, open the door for us. Imagine the desperation in that plea. Imagine the devastating realization that they arrived too late. The bridegroom's response resounds like an echo of terror. Truly I tell you, I do not know you. The same words from the first warning, now in a parable about preparation. But here's the secret of the closed door that most people miss. Jesus wasn't talking about death. He was talking about his second coming, and the frightening thing is that the foolish virgins weren't unbelievers. They were unprepared believers. Do you know what the most dangerous forgotten teaching of all is? The idea that there's always time later. The foolish virgins thought they could buy oil whenever they needed it. They discovered that certain spiritual things cannot be acquired at the last minute. Communion with God cannot be bought. Christian character cannot be improvised. An intimate relationship with Christ cannot be built during a crisis. You either have it or you don't. And when Jesus returns, there will be no second chance to prepare. This secret transcends cultures and languages. Spiritual preparation is a personal responsibility that no one can do for you. Not your parents, not your pastor, not your denomination. It's between you and God, in secret, hidden, where no one sees. But if you think this is intense, wait until you hear the third warning, because this one will show you that the whole world is conspiring against your spiritual preparation. Have you ever stopped to think why Jesus spent so much time warning about deception in the last days? Many false prophets will arise and will deceive many. There will be signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Therefore, because iniquity will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Jesus wasn't concerned about believers who would knowingly abandon their faith. He was warning about believers who would be slowly, subtly led away without even realizing it. The third warning reveals a terrible truth about the last days. The deceptions will be so sophisticated, so close to the truth, that even people chosen by God will be at risk of being deceived. This isn't spiritual paranoia. It's a direct warning from Jesus himself. He knew there would come a time when distinguishing between truth and lies would require supernatural discernment. Think of the deceptions you see today. Gospels that promise only prosperity, teachings that remove the cross from the message, leaders who transform faith into a consumer product. Jesus saw all this 2,000 years ago and warned us. The most dangerous are not the obvious deceptions. They are those that contain 95% truth and 5% lies. These are doctrines that sound biblical but subtly distort God's character or the way of salvation. But here's what few realize. Jesus didn't say that those deceived would be people weak in faith. He said that even the elect would be in danger. There is a category of Jesus' teachings that most Christians choose to ignore, and perhaps you are one of them. These are the messages Jesus gave about suffering, persecution, and the real cost of following him. Words that don't fit on motivational t-shirts or inspirational posts. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. In the world you will have tribulation. You will be hated by all for my name's sake. The time will come when whoever kills you will think he has offered God service. Jesus didn't promise an easy life for those who followed him. In fact, he guaranteed the opposite. And here's one of the prophecies no one wants to hear. True Christianity will always cost something. It will cost you your reputation when you have to take unpopular biblical positions. It will cost you relationships when your faith begins to bother others. It will cost you comfort when God asks you to step outside your comfort zone. But Jesus' most disturbing prophecy about the last days isn't about external persecution. It's about something that will happen within the hearts of believers. As he said in Matthew 24:12, "Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." And that brings us to the fourth warning, which may be the hardest to accept of all. If you've been a Christian for a while, you may have felt that enthusiasm for your faith that seemed to be waning without you understanding why. Jesus prophesied this would happen, not as a curse, but as a warning. He said that when evil abounds in the world, the love of many believers will grow cold. It's not that they would stop believing. It's not that they would abandon the church. It's that burning passion for God, that hunger for the Word, that genuine love for others would simply begin to cool. Why does this happen? Jesus connected the cooling of love to the increase of iniquity. When we are constantly exposed to evil through news, social media, toxic relationships, our spiritual sensitivity becomes dulled. It's as if our soul develops a protective crust to deal with so much negativity. But this same crust that protects us from evil also prevents us from fully experiencing God's love. Perhaps you've noticed, prayers have become more mechanical. The Bible seems less interesting. Love for others has become more of a duty than a joy. Tears during praise have become rare. Jesus saw this happening in the last days and warned us not to condemn us, but to prepare us, so that when we felt our love growing cold, we would know we needed to take urgent action. But there is hope. And it's connected to the mystery Jesus revealed about perseverance. Amidst all the dark warnings, Jesus left one promise that can save your soul. He who endures to the end will be saved. But here's the mystery that few understand. Persevering doesn't just mean hanging on. The Greek word Jesus used literally means to remain under, like someone who carries a weight without giving up. Jesus knew there would be times when following him would be a heavy burden. Times when faith would seem more difficult than it was worth. Times when giving up would seem the most logical option. And it was precisely for these moments that he revealed this mystery. Salvation is not just an event, It is a process that requires perseverance to the end. This doesn't contradict salvation by grace. It contradicts the idea that accepting Jesus is like buying spiritual life insurance that guarantees you heaven, regardless of how you live afterward. Here is one of Christ's most forgotten teachings. True faith is faith that perseveres, not perfect faith, but persistent faith, not faith that never doubts, but faith that continues to believe despite doubts. Perseverance isn't about being strong all the time. It's about turning to God every time you stumble. It's about not giving up the race, even when your knees are bleeding. But if you think you've heard the most intense warnings, the fifth one will shake up concepts you may never have questioned about the time we still have. But of that day and hour, no one knows. Therefore you also must be ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. This is Jesus' fifth and most disturbing warning, not only because it speaks of his return, but because of the analogy he chose: a thief in the night. Thieves don't warn when they're coming. They don't send marked letters. They don't give obvious signs. They arrive at the most unexpected moment, when people are relaxed, unprepared, and going about their normal routine. Jesus said his return would be just like this. And here's what amazes me most. He didn't compare his return to a thief just to talk about surprise. He wanted to emphasize that many people will be caught completely unprepared. How can someone who awaits Christ's return be caught off guard? The answer lies in human nature. We tend to think we always have more time. But the most shocking part of this fifth warning isn't about timing. It's about who will be left out. Jesus said it will be as in the days of Noah. People were eating, drinking, marrying, living normally. They weren't necessarily bad people. They were normal people who didn't take the warning seriously. What if Jesus came back today? Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Would you be prepared, or would you be like the foolish virgins running after the oil you should have bought earlier? This is the truth that connects all 5 warnings. Jesus is not coming back for those who think they know him. He is coming back for those who truly know him, not for those who have a religion, but for those who have a relationship. Not for those who are in the church, but for those who have the church within them. Remember the 3 words I mentioned at the beginning? The words that made the Roman soldier kneel? They were these: Father, forgive them. Jesus forgave even those who crucified him. And it is precisely this forgiveness that makes his warnings not a condemnation, but an urgent invitation to repentance. Every warning Jesus gave carries the same heart. He doesn't want anyone to perish. He's not trying to scare you away from God. He's trying to awaken you to the seriousness of eternal life. The 5 warnings are not about fear. They are about love. The love of a Savior who knows the future and does not want any of his children caught off guard. So I ask, after hearing these warnings from Jesus, what will you do? Will you continue with a superficial faith, or will you seek a real relationship with Christ? Will you remain in appearances, or will you allow him to truly transform your heart? Time doesn't stop for anyone. Every day that passes is one less day to prepare. And when Jesus returns, not if but when, it will be too late to change. But today, in this moment, there is still time. There is still grace. There is still forgiveness. Jesus not only warned of the dangers, he offered the solution, himself. As he said in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If this message touched your heart, it's no coincidence. Perhaps it's exactly what God wanted you to hear today. These warnings from Jesus aren't meant to condemn you. They're meant to save you. In the comments, tell me which of these 5 warnings impacted you the most. Which revelation touched your heart the most? Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to read. And if this message made a difference in your life, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications as we'll continue exploring these profound, life-changing Bible lessons. Remember, Jesus didn't give these warnings to scare us, but to prepare us, not to push us away, but to draw us closer to him. because in the end, the greatest truth of all is that He loves us too much to leave us unprepared. May God bless your journey. And may these warnings from Jesus become not a burden, but wings that carry you closer to the Father's heart.